In this week's Drive, we take a really close look at what makes a winner, reveal Tiger's new dream machine, see a world champion get knocked down again, and find out what really draws the crowds to Wimbledon. All this and more in this week's Drive. We start this week with final preparations for the UK's biggest motor show. Here, public reaction to concept cars and the latest ideas can decide which models go into production or get sent back to the design studio.
Come on, Parker, chop chop.
One major highlight is the 8-metre-long, 6-wheeled pink limousine belonging to Lady Penelope Crichton-Ward and driven by her enigmatic chauffeur Parker. One of the major attractions in the Thunderbirds movie, due out later this year. It was developed by Ford's design team. Back to Earth. A big change this year will be increased opportunities for the public to get more involved with the actual vehicles.
When people go to shows these days, they want to experience something. They don't just want to look at things in a static sense. We call it they want to be interactive with the product. So for the first time here at an international motor show, we've got 4 elements where the customers can actually relate to the car itself.
One of those attractions was the single-seater buggies built for speed and bumps, and a chance for visitors to improve their basic driving skills under the expert eye of high-performance driving instructors. The show includes 130 exhibitors, over 400 cars, and the chance to get hands-on and go off-road on a new 70-acre country course built specially to test 4x4 vehicles. Prospective customers are able to put new vehicles through their paces, and existing owners can learn more about the capabilities of what they've already bought. The course is more challenging than a typical dealer's backyard test track, but unlikely to scare away any competent drivers. All the best ideas for the future of motoring would be revealed to British motorists at this year's show.
It's pure, open-air theatre. A car which puts a smile on your face whether you're popping out for a loaf of bread or circumnavigating the globe.
Within minutes of being unveiled at the show, the first 6,000 of the new Mini Cabrio destined for the UK had been sold. A stunt team put the new car through its paces. The cool look and the fact that the roof can be lowered within seconds at the press of a button makes this a leading attraction. At the other end of the scale are the expensive or high-tech leaders of the high-performance vehicle world. From the handmade Aston Martin through to the all-new third-generation Land Rover Discovery, both incidentally made by Ford subsidiaries. Here's a car we've seen before on Drive, on both land and water. The amphibious Aquada Sports Convertible can travel on water at speeds of up to 30 miles an hour. It takes about 10 seconds for the car's wheels to retract and turn the car into a jet boat. It was originally priced at around £150,000, but demand has been so high, production savings have cut the cost of this invention by half.
The response has been unbelievable. We've had 1 million inquiries from all over the world, and it was clear to us that we could not really meet the market without going into much bigger production.
The fans of serious high-performance cars had the full range from Porsche to examine, from the GT V10 sports car to the Cayenne 4x4 all-terrain tamer. No motor show would be complete without a selection of real racing machinery, and Britain builds most of the world's competition vehicles. Top Brit Jenson Button made an appearance with a replica of the car he drove to second place at Monaco and third at the Nürburgring. He was asked whether he could have beaten Jarno Trulli on the mean streets of Monte Carlo.
Well, I think I'd caught him already. You know, I finished 4 tenths behind him, but to get past in Monaco is virtually impossible. You know, the only reason why I was trying to push him so hard is to see if he would make a mistake, maybe clip a wall or something, but he didn't. You know, he drove very well, and I wasn't able to get past him.
And if the slower car wasn't in the way, would he have taken a chance to get by?
On the last corner, you know, everyone says, would you have done a do or die move or anything, but you know, there will be times when he will repay the favour, I'm sure, if I'd driven him off the circuit. So, you know, you have to have some respect, and there was no chance where I could get alongside him at all around the circuits.
Trulli and his Renault are the only combination to have won, beside Michael Schumacher and Ferrari, so far this year.
I think it was about 12 laps to the end. The team came on the radio and said, you're closing on Jarno. We know you won't be able to overtake him, but you know, you can push him into a mistake. And they said, take every risk you can. And I was like, hey, excellent, let's go for it. And you know, it's great that the team are behind you to push it to the limit. You know, every lap from then on was a quali lap, which is pretty tough to do. You know, I was on the limit all the time.
The resurgent BAR team have jumped up the order this year, and the new car has given Jensen a string of podiums, but he hasn't scored his maiden Grand Prix win yet, unlike Trulli, who claimed his first win in Monte Carlo.
All last season we were working very well together as a team, BAR and Honda, and that's a lot of it. You know, we've improved in every area. You know, with the car, it's lighter and it's stiffer. The engine is lighter, it's more power. We've got a carbon fibre gearbox, which is lighter. You know, aerodynamically the car is very strong. It's just piecing everything together, and it's really worked well. Michelin are doing a good job with the tyres. So we are a team that are on the up, and we are still young, we're still learning. So, you know, there is a win there, hopefully soon.
Right now, this is as close as Jensen has got to glory. 5 career podiums, including 2 seconds, and all of them this year. So near, just not a winner yet. Last week, we saw how the BMW Williams team set up their car. This week, we get a detailed look at the world champions Ferrari.
When we are talking about the changes and how we prepare the car for the next race in Nürburgring, when we say for each race the car looks all the same, but they have different details that change from race to race. We can change wing level, that is one of the most important things on the car. Then we have a specific brake for each circuit, and also we have a particular setting for the brakes that are really linked to all the circuits we are going. Also, there is the engine is nearly the same for all the race, the specific spec of the engine, but we are also changing the ratios because depending on the top speed we do, we have to adjust the RPM on the engine, so we have a good gearbox for each races. This is basically this is the front brakes. The system we are using is done with a carbon disc. Depending on the track, we can have different thickness on the material. Also, what is important is the snorkel for the air intake to cool down the brakes. It's very important to control the temperature on the disc, because the carbon material is very sensitive to the temperature, the working temperature. Also, we can change the caliper, that is this part, and we have a bigger or smaller caliper depending on from track to track. For Nürburgring, we normally consider the track like a medium braking circuit, so you can have a relative light configuration for the brakes. We are talking now about the front wing. The front wing we have basically a main plane, that is this part, and then a flap. We can have a different main plane depending on the track where we are going, because they goes with the downforce level we want to have on the car. It means that depending on the track, we can have some wing that are producing more downforce or less downforce on the front. Also, another tool that we have to have more downforce on the front is the front flap, that is adjustable, so we can decide to have a different angle, to have more front aero balance, front downforce or less. This is done because depending on the characteristic of the track, depending on the tires that we are using, we need to have the possibility to run, to have more aerodynamic force on the front, just to have a better balance on the car. During the race, we can also, with a tool, we can adjust the front flap angle, because maybe during the pit stop the driver need or to have a better car during the race needs to have a little adjustment to have a better car balance in the race. This is the rear wing. Depending on the circuit, we can change the angle of the wing to have more or less aerodynamic force on the car. And this is the biggest element that makes really most of the aerodynamic downforce on the car. As I said, depending on the circuit we are going, we can change the angles to have a more or less aerodynamic load, or we can change the profile of the wing. So we will have a smaller wing for a high-speed circuit like Monza or Montreal, and for high downforce circuits, medium high downforce circuits like Nürburgring, we have a bigger wing. This, as I said, we can change the downforce level. We decide which is the starting level depending on some simulation tool that we have, and then we set up the car, the rest of the car, depending on the car, on the problem that we have on each circuit. One important thing on this is the engine cover, and is quite important are this opening on the bodywork that are used to have the right to let the engine running at the right temperature with the oil and with the water. I said they are important because depending on how much we open the bodywork, you can lose efficiency on the car, but also it's very important to have the right cooling on the engine, because we need to run the engine on in a very narrow temperature band for the oil and for the water to have the best performance out of the engine. It's also very important because if the engine is running too hot, we can have problem of reliability. If we are going to races where it's very hot, you will see that these all are getting always bigger and bigger, and this means that it's linked with the temperature and the ambient temperature.
So there we have it, the kind of attention to detail needed to be and stay world champions. With 6 wins and 1 crash from 7 starts, Michael looks set to retain his crown, as Rubens regains 2nd place and Jarno and Jensen dice to be best of the rest. Among the teams, Ferrari's in a different race, and it's more clear-cut as the Renault pair's consistency overcomes Sato's mercurial performances for BAR. Just when it seemed like his team had come to terms with a new car, Marcus Grönholm lost his Cyprus Rally win and the World Championship lead when the governing body, the FIA, excluded his Peugeot on technical grounds. France's Sébastien Loeb, runner-up for champion Citroën at Limassol in the most recent event, was awarded the victory and the points, and therefore takes the overall lead. The FIA said in a statement that stewards had ruled at a meeting with Peugeot representatives in Paris that the water pump on Grönholm's car did not conform to the technical regulations. The Finn, twice world champion, was excluded, along with compatriot Harry Rovanperä, who finished 5th for the team in Cyprus. The win would have been Peugeot's first with a new 307 that the team introduced this season. Loeb's Citroën and that of Spaniard Carlos Sainz, despite sharing many parts with stablemates Peugeot, were found to conform to the rules. Grönholm had won the Cyprus Rally, the 5th round of the championship, by 54 seconds to take a 1-point lead over runner-up Loeb. Under the revised standings, Loeb now has 35 points, with Ford's Estonian driver Marco Martin 2nd on 34. Subaru's world champion Petter Solberg of Norway is 3rd with 28, while Grönholm slips back to 4th with 24 points. Earlier this year, the New York Motor Show saw the unveiling of a new concept car from Buick, one of America's oldest and most respected car manufacturers.
Buick Velite. This is a kind of a statement of where we want to take Buick Not necessarily much more expensive, but certainly much more expensive looking and feeling.
The Velite is the first American demonstration of GM's all-new Zeta-based global vehicle architecture, featuring a rear-wheel drive chassis. Power to move the Velite comes from Buick's experimental twin-turbocharged intercooled V6 engine, which will eventually go into cars all over the world. 400 horsepower and 400 feet-pounds of torque are delivered by its double overhead cam design and 3.6-litre displacement. The engine features fuel-saving variable valve timing technology, which is available on some of GM's 4, 5 and 6 and 8-cylinder engines. Through the use of variable valve timing, valve lift and duration are continuously varied to boost fuel economy, horsepower and torque, while reducing emissions. The four-seater convertible design concept uses elements from modern furniture and lounge spaces. Buick's trademark grille has been given a new home in the clamshell-shaped bonnet with the signature 3 portholes on either side. The cockpit features top-stitched two-tone leather upholstery, tan woven leather inserts and trim, and gold leaf lacquer in place of wood.
If you look at the car, you see that there's almost no front overhang, and you have a nice dash-to axle. That is, you've got a nice distance from the base of the windshield to the center of the front wheel. It gives a very dynamic proportion. Zeta is the first GM architecture where we can get that look. It's also a very flexible architecture. It can be longer or shorter. It can be rear-wheel drive or all-wheel drive. But it's it can make for very beautiful cars because it's got a very wide track.
During the Buick Invitational Golf Tournament in California, Buick-sponsored Tiger Woods was introduced to the Velite on the 18th fairway. Able to afford any car he fancies, the ace golfer was nonetheless impressed by the concept.
It's incredible, isn't it?
Okay, just your favorite part.
I think it's just how fast it is.
Just right by the driver's side door. We'll let Scott get the shot right now.
400 horses.
Here's the shooter.
It's more young, more hip, and I think that's incredible. I think it's great for them to make that transition from where they were to now, and I think that's why Buick's been growing so fast. They built a reputation for being at the highest standard and the highest quality for, 100 years. So I mean, that's without being said, I think that kind of speaks for itself.
Named for an elite class of quick-moving soldiers in Napoleon's army, the Velite was designed in America, in case you hadn't guessed, and assembled at the famous coach builder Bertone's studio in Italy. The Speedway Grand Prix Tour moved on to Wrocław in Poland for the European Grand Prix, the third of this season's 9 meetings. Despite this slow curtain-raising parade, it would be a night of high drama. The drama started in the 5th heat when Norway's Rune Holte slid off after colliding with Denmark's Hans Andersen. The race was stopped as Holte lay trapped in the trackside safety fencing. Once he was cut free, he was able to walk away with no serious injuries. The replay showed Holte was slow turning in and tried to defend his line by leaning on Andersen, but came off second best. As a result, the officials ruled Holte out of the event. He was hoping that the race would be rerun so that he would have a chance to qualify for the next round. But the only thing he qualified for was an early shower. Australian Jason Crump led the standings coming into the event after second and first place finishes respectively in the first 2 races of the season. But Crump's day was to end in disappointment after he finished third in Heat 21 behind local favourite Peter Protasevich, who triumphed despite the fact that the starter's tape caught his helmet, and fellow Australian Lee Adams in second place. The 28-year-old Crump had to settle for 9th on the day, which saw him drop down into second place in the overall table. The fervent Polish fans were celebrating after the semi-finals when local riders triumphed in both races. In the first semi, Protasevich led home Bjarne Pedersen with another Pole, Gregor Walasek and Ryan Sullivan of Australia, eliminated. The second semi saw a dramatic start when Jaroslav Hampel shot into the lead from the outside lane and went on to win from former world champion Tony Rickardsson of Sweden, with both the world champion Nicky Pedersen and Lee Adams eliminated. So local hopes were high for the final, with half the field flying the Polish flag. But it was Pedersen, a 26-year-old from the town of Holstebro in Denmark, who swept into the lead. His previous best place finish was third in last year's Norwegian Grand Prix, the only time he'd reached the final round. He actually rode in Heat 1 and fought all the way through to the final, which he won from Humpel, runner-up for the second consecutive Grand Prix. Rickardson kept his record of finishing third in each of the Grand Prix meetings so far this year. With 25 points for the win, Pedersen has moved up to 5th in the overall standings on 37 points.
You know, I feel me so good, you know, I can still not believe it, you know, everything was working so perfect and make a good start, so, you know, I think it's first tomorrow, you know, I know it.
Yeah, what can I say? I mean, back in the lead again of the World Championship feels great. I really wanted to win though tonight. It's been a while since I've been winning, so it would have been nice, but I'm so happy, you know, my team's been working great. I got a great backing with sponsor stuff, so I'm really happy where I am right now.
After 3 rounds, Rickardson leads the championship with 54 points, one ahead of Crump with Adams on 49, Humpel on 43 and Bjarne Pedersen on 37. Defending champ Nicky Pedersen is 7th on 34 points. The next round is at the Millennium Stadium in Cardiff in Wales. And finally, we've seen car stunts in the Hollywood movies, but away from the glitz and the glamour, there's a bunch of British would-be stunt drivers keen to prove their worth to spectators. But there was only one woman in the paddock.
I just feel very sick at the moment and I just want it over with, but once I think I've got over, I think I'll be all right.
There is. The worst thing is you worry about missing the ramp. So you think if you're going to miss it, you're going to look stupid in front of everyone because everyone's just staring at you, whoever's driving.
They were competing in the British Rollover Championship in Wimbledon Stadium, specially prepared for the competition. The ramp the drivers jump over is quite small and not an easy target to hit when accelerating out of a bend. The actual roller is judged on distance, elevation and style, not to mention the applause of the crowd. Much as in a gladiator's arena, it was the roar of the crowd's approval that made it all worthwhile, as well as a gleaming trophy for the winner, 30-year-old Tony Green from Croydon in London in car number 117.
Coming out now, right?
You do feel a hard thump, yeah, it goes straight through you. But you put a lot of padding inside, lessens it a little bit, but not much. The head's spinning now.
When he's not rolling cars, Tony works where else but a scrap metal business. So whether you're jumping for joy, polishing the silverware, or heading for the barriers, so you stay on track and up to speed, make sure you catch next week's Drive.